Well, I want to thank the praise team for leading us in praise tonight, and Taylor for coming all the way from Ohio. He's a student missionary this year in Kettering, and it's just really awesome. Let's give Taylor a hand. That was lame, y'all. Let's do that again. Let's give Taylor a hand. Thank you for coming. So I'm really excited to tell you a very important and significant story in my life. I know that you're going to enjoy it as well because love stories usually are that way. Wouldn't you agree? Love stories are usually that way. Some time ago, I went on a mission trip, and I'm telling you guys, mission trips are an amazing thing to be a part of. There's several that happen here during the school year, and if you go, there's a good chance that you're going to meet your future spouse for the rest of your life. So take advantage of the mission trip. All right, so this is the story of my first kiss. Yes. I bet you I have a better first kiss story than anybody here because there's some key components that are really important. One is location, okay? First kiss story has to have a great location. Secondly, a great first kiss story has to have some great lines, okay? And third, a great first kiss story has to have a Dominican, which is me. That's right. Yes, Dominican. All right, so teen mission trip, headed down on a plane, 50-something teens, 14, 15, 16 years old. We're headed down. We're going to do medical mission stuff. We're going to do dental stuff. We're going to do eye stuff, all kinds of amazing stuff. We're going to do VBSs in the community. And you know what you do as soon as you meet at the airport is you look around and you're checking out who's there, right? You map out the space. Who else is with me? You're going to find your crew. There's a few of us from Detroit, which is where I was, but for the most part, didn't know anybody. And so that first week, we get on the plane, we get down to the DR, we get on the bus, we travel to our first site, super excited, still scoping out the ladies, trying to figure out, okay, who's the one? I know Jesus brought me on this mission trip to meet the one, right? So that's what I'm doing. I'm looking around, and I set my eyes on her. She's beautiful, she's gorgeous, and 3 days later, she turned me down, so that's definitely not the one. She did not seem to have the right clarity of vision to know the Dominican that she was dealing with. So we move on to the next one, right? That's how it works. So I started talking with this one young gal, and it was beautiful because we just moved locations. We were at our second location, and the second location was on the north part of the island of the Dominican Republic, right on the beach. Beautiful. I mean, the ocean was right there. The camp was up on a hill. You go down like a very small dune, and right there's the water. So we would start our day with the sound of the waves. We would come back, we would go jump in the water, and it was just legit. Supper, Vespers, go to bed until your sponsors go to bed, and then what do? You get up, and you go to the beach. And that's exactly what happened. So I was talking to this one lady, and she was just beautiful and pretty, and just everything was right. And I had been practicing my lines. Now, guys, you may want to take some notes. These are some of the best lines that you've ever heard, okay? And this is how it works, all right? So we're walking, and, you couple off, and a couple goes over there, another couple goes over there, and we're walking. We walk to our spot. It was just calculated, a spot further away from everybody else, right on the water. And I look at her, and I'm just, I've been practicing in my mind for a long time how I'm going to set this up. And I have to admit, I don't get embarrassed very easily, but every time I tell the story, I get embarrassed because I just didn't realize at such a young age I'm such a smooth brother. All right, so here it goes. Baby. Yeah, that's right, baby. Yeah, baby. You see those stars? Your eyes twinkle more than those stars. Yeah, it's good, right? It's good. Write this down. Yeah, and she looks, and she's all lit up, like excited. And I said, honey, You got to change it up, Honey, your smile is brighter than that moon. Now, this next one, at this point, she's putty. I mean, she's just melting. And don't lie, all the ladies in here, you're thinking, man, I wish a guy would have said that to me my first time. Yes, I know you're thinking that. And so she was putty at this point, but I had to take it to another level. And I took it to another level that I had no concept of, all right? Because what I'm about to say, I just wouldn't know because I had no experience to know this. Put my hand on her cheek. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, just a little, just a little. I said, your skin is softer than a baby's bottom. I have no idea. I have no idea where I got that analogy from, but I'm just telling, it was smooth sailing from that point forward. Smooth sailing. So we kissed, and it was beautiful. The sun, the waves, everything, the moment, the lines, the Dominican, everything was legit. 2 days later, this is what's happening 2 days later. I love you. I love you. I love you, honey. I love you. I love you. That's exactly what happened 2 days later. I love you. She's saying, I love you. I'm saying, I love you. This is amazing. We found the one already. We're going to be together forever. I can't wait to go home. I know you live an hour away and I don't have a license or a car, but I love you. We will make this work. This is going to happen. I love you. I can't wait for you to meet my family. I can't wait for you to meet my parents. Can't wait for you to meet my brother. I love you. And that's how it went the rest of the week. The rest of the week. One more week. Get on our plane, head home to Detroit. Talking on the phone. We're not sure we're ready to tell mom and dad just yet. So we have our farewell before where you meet the parents, separate that night. I call from my phone to her phone. And what's really interesting, this is when long distance used to cost something. You guys don't know about paying for long distance charges. Well, this is when long distance charges you paid for. And we were talking I love you, just talking for hours. And then when we ran out of stuff to talk, we would say stuff like, isn't it nice that we can just stay on the phone and not say anything and know that we love each other? Isn't that nice? That's just a whole nother level of maturity and comfortableness, right? So we arranged it so our parents could meet. Oh, and that was great. Her parents came down with her, and I got to meet her mom and dad, and she got to meet my mom and dad, and they got to meet each other, and they're just, being nice parents. And we're just saying, I love you, and writing letters to each other and mailing them. So excited. And then 2 months later, honey, I don't think this is going to work. I'm not sure that this is going to work out for us. We're kind of young. 8th grade is a really early time. Isn't that the truth? 8th grade's kind of an early time. And, I don't have my license and I can barely see you. And I just don't think this long distance thing is really gonna happen. Oh, man. Oh, the great disappointment that was for both of us. The interesting thing about relationships is the expectations that we have as we go into them, right? Whether the relationship is a romantic one, right? Whether there's you think she's cute, you think he's cute, you think there's something that could happen here, some connection that could be built. There's an expectation that goes into that. Or maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just a friendship, either with someone that you're attracted to or someone who you're not attracted to. You just want to be friends. And you go into that relationship with expectations. Even in class, your professor's very good about explaining to you the relationship that you're going to have. The syllabus makes it very clear what the expectations are going to be for that relationship. That class experience, you have this that you have to fulfill, and if you fill these things, you're going to succeed. It's going to be really, awesome. But when it comes to relationship, all of us come with some history and some experience and some things that have happened to us, good or bad, both, and we move into other relationships with some expectations. And as we're looking at proximity, last month we looked at get clear. This month we're looking at get close. I wonder what our expectations are for ourselves as we begin to get close to God and to one another. Because I promise you, we all have different expectations. And I just want to suggest to you that as a follower of Christ, you should have exceptional expectations of what it means to get close to one another and to God. So I want to take you through a story. At the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. So the stewards took away their food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. Daniel chapter 1, verse 15 through 16. How many of you have heard this at least once in your life? You've seen this story, and this is a great story that we always talk about the importance of a good diet. Tonight, I want to challenge for you to look at this passage a little bit differently. First, at the end of 10 days. Do you remember how this story got set up? So Babylon comes to Israel, takes over Israel, takes a whole bunch of them captives, takes the cream of the crop from Israel, brings them all the way to Babylon, and all the princes and all the elite of Israel were brought into the palace of King Nebuchadnezzar, and they were going to be trained to be ambassadors, and they were going to be the princes and magistrates of the kingdom. And that's how he did it. He just assimilated them right into the culture. And so when they arrived, he put all of the best that the king had to offer, everything, the best, because he wanted these people, he wanted to buy their love and their affection and their loyalty. So he gave them the best that they offer, and Daniel and his three friends, they said, you know what, we don't want that. We want something completely different. We want more of the same. Did you hear me? What did they want? More of the same. You see, the diet that they were introduced to in Babylon was the new diet, right? They had all kinds of meats, they had all kinds of wines, but they had grown up as Israel's elect, and they had a different set of diet standards. And these four, they said, we don't want different. We want more of the same. More of the same. Nothing had changed. They said, we are going to keep everything the same. So at the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. So here's the difference. Daniel and his three friends kept doing exactly the same thing that they grew up with. And everybody else went a different way. But because Daniel and his three friends were faithful to what they knew, since they stuck to the foundation that they were on, they continued to excel and the others continue to deteriorate when they took on something different. At the end of 10 days, here's what it is. Pursuing known positive outcomes is pursuing success. Their whole life, they had done things a certain way, and guess what? They knew exactly what would happen. They would be fit, they would be well. There was no risk to them to take the challenge of those 10 days. They knew exactly what the outcomes would be. They knew if they kept doing the same thing that they had done their entire life, if they had kept faithful to those principles of health, if they had kept faithful to those principles of rest, if they had kept faithful to those principles of community and just how they would eat and how they would live and how they would sleep and all that stuff, they knew what the outcome would be. They would be healthy. That had been proven, that had been true. Another way to put it is, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Real simple. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. You are facing new questions, new challenges, new perspectives all the time. And you take that information in and you're wondering, man, I wonder what it would be like if I did this. I wonder what it would be like if I did this. But my question to you is, if what you've been doing, if what you've been taught, and I'm assuming here that you've been doing what Jesus has been telling you, and you've been following what his word, and you're living a rich life and a fulfilled life and peaceful life, why would you change? Why would you change? Why would you go another way? It's been proven. When you follow Jesus, when you follow his way, you're more likely to have the life that you were built for than if you went another way. Stay the course. Be faithful. Be true to what he has. Next part of the story. At the end of 10 days, it was seen. At the end of 10 days, it was seen. What do we have to learn? What you see clearly is what you get. We talked about clearly last month, didn't we? And we talked about having the vision of being able to see God for who he really is and who he really wants us to be. If we allow his view, if we allow his vision for us to be the way that we see things, we can see wisdom where wisdom is. We can see beauty where beauty really is. We can see success where success really is. What you see clearly is what you get. We know, and we really repel against this idea of superficially judging each other, right? I get that. I'm not saying we should do that at all. But I'm asking for us to adopt a vision that sees people the way that God sees them, right? To measure and to understand and to gauge someone by the way that God would. And so as you're looking around and you're trying to figure out what relationship should I have, what friendship should I have, what circles I should have, I'm asking you to consider, why not set up a metric within yourself that says, you know what, the kind of relationships that I want to get involved in are the kind that are going to bring glory and honor to God. All right? Why? Because you know what the outcome is. Those people who make decisions to glorify God and honor God, those are safe relationships. Those are trustworthy relationships. Those are the kinds of relationships that help you to get better, not worse. Those are the relationships that when you look back, you're going to thank God for and not be asking for repentance from, right? You're going to look back and you say, you know what, Lord, if it wasn't for so-and-so in my life in that moment, I'm not so sure I would have made the best decision. And I thank you, God, for that person in my life. See the way God wants you to see. And people take note. It was obvious. Daniel and his friends being faithful to what God had told them. It was clear. You could see the difference. And I'm telling you guys, you can see the difference. Those of us and those of you who follow Jesus Christ, we look different. We behave different. It's obvious. It's so visible. And what is it the passage said? It says, they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh. And all that. Fatter in flesh is a good thing, by the way. All right? Better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. You can see the difference from those people who are close to God and are following what he says. Next verse. At the end of 10 days, it was seen that they were better in appearance and fatter in flesh than all the youths who ate the king's food. Being exceptional is rewarded. Do you understand that? Being exceptional is rewarded. It's not about competing. It's not about comparing. Okay, those are different things. Those kinds of values come out of insecurities. But a desire to be exceptional isn't about standing out for the sake of standing out. In fact, all they did to be standing out like this, to be exceptional, to stand out from the rest of the group, then all of the rest of the group was to be faithful, to do more of the same, to be faithful to what Jesus had asked them to do. There was nothing glorious or glamorous. In fact, when the world looked at them, on the one hand, all those other youths, they were eating the richest food. They were eating from the king's table. And on the other hand, these guys, they were eating vegetables. Now, when you watch the Food Network, right? I mean, simple food? Like, is that what's... No, they have... There's some really good stuff on Food Network. I'm not downing that at all. But here you have these guys who have... All of the rest have been following this, what everyone else was doing. This alleged higher standard, the richness of the king, of Nebuchadnezzar. And here are Daniel and his three friends, and they have the richness of their king, their heavenly Father. Very different things. They decided to stick to this, to stick close to what God had proposed for them, what God had planned for them. And just by being faithful in the simple things, they were exceptional. They stood out. So, the steward, this is the person in charge of them. The steward, I want you, when you come here, many of you freshmen, it's fresh in your memories, you sign a paper, right? You sign a paper saying that you agree to abide by the student code of conduct. That's the agreement that you've made. And what I'm going to suggest to you is very clear. Those are minimum expectations. Minimum expectations. The steward, you see, you're hardly ever your own boss. People will always have expectations for you. You're going to go to a job, and they're going to have expectations for you. You go to your class, you go to your department, they have expectations for you. If you want to get into med school, they have expectations for you. And they tell you, here's the minimum. Here is the minimum of what you need to accomplish. But Daniel and his friends decided to do something different. They decided to do something very distinct. They decided to beat expectations. Have you ever asked the question, and hopefully you haven't, how far is too far? Right? In a relationship, you're just wondering how close to the edge can you get before, it gets a little dangerous. How close to the edge can you get before you go into some moral gray or some moral not good ever, right? How far is too far? That's a very minimalist way of approaching life. Daniel and these three friends, they said, you know what? We don't want to just be like everybody else. We don't want to just be the norm. We want to set up our own norm. We want to beat people's expectations. And that's exactly what they did. With the steward who said, you know what? I don't know if I want to let you have your own diet because I kind of want you to be the same like everyone else. That's what he essentially said. I want you to be the same like everyone else. And they said to him, we don't want to be like everyone else. In fact, we think that our way is better than the way everyone else does. And so what did they do? They beat the expectations. So the steward took away their food and the wine they were to drink and gave them vegetables. That doesn't seem glamorous at all, does it? Does that seem like a really big deal? He took something away that was perceived to be the best and gave them something that was perceived to be simple. Vegetables. How is that a good thing? Here we go. Exceptional people enjoy an exceptional normal. Daniel and his three friends, in this context, redefined their normal, right? They redefined what normal looked like for them. They were simply doing what God had asked them to do. They looked around at what the rest of their friends were doing. They looked around at what all the other people from different nations were doing, and they saw that everybody was going to this new normal. They were going to eat from the king's table. And they said to us, we don't want that to be our normal. We don't want that to be our routine. We don't want to settle for that. We feel that God has a much better plan. And they said, you know what? By being faithful to God, this will be our normal. This will be our everyday. This will be our routine. This is how we will get up, and this is how we will eat. This is how we will exercise. This is how we will perform, and this is how we will go down and sleep. This is our new normal, a normal defined by God's plan. Amen. And that's what made them exceptional. Exceptional was defined, they defined exceptional just by keeping it simple and doing what God had asked them to do. I look around at all the issues that we have in the world today, and I ask myself, and I'm going to be honest with you guys right now. All right, the remnant people of God. All right, the remnant people of God, how are they being exceptional right now? Right? I don't know what you grew up with when it came to this particular message of the remnant. Okay? My idea that I grew up with, and this is just a general impression, right? The remnant were the people who celebrated their own faithfulness to God. And we get really excited about that. We get excited because we're distinctive. And then I ask myself, how are we distinctive? Okay? We say there's two things by the word. What is it? Do you guys remember? What are the two things? Those who keep the commandments and who have the testimony of Jesus Christ, right? And I think to myself, I don't know why I don't feel like that's how my church is exceptional. One of the interesting things, who was it that wrote in the student, I can't remember his name, he wrote in the student movement this week. It was in the back. And he talked about how we obsess about Pope Francis and the prophetic connection that we've always felt is attached to the Pope. Yet, here's the Pope doing all kinds of amazing and crazy, beautiful things. And the longing that he had in his own heart was, why aren't Adventists in North America known for those beautiful and wonderful things? Why is it that we aren't the ones that are known in North America? And I say North America because in a lot of parts around the world, I go to the Caribbean, I go to Inter-America, and there's two things that Adventists are known for almost every single time: education and hospitals. You go to an Adventist school, here's what they get really excited about. And here's what is really interesting about Adventist education in North America versus Adventist education everywhere else. When I go to those countries, and I've been multiple times, 24 plus mission trips, building several schools, 6 classroom schools, 8 classroom schools. Their goal is to have more non-Adventists in their schools than Adventists. Their goal is, and oftentimes this is what ends up happening, it's like 20 to 1. 20 to 1 non-Adventists for the one Adventist they have in there. People love sending their kids to our schools because the education they receive makes them better members of society. And everybody knows it. Everybody knows that when they go to an Adventist school and they get an Adventist education, they are going to be producers in the community, producing good, beautiful, and wonderful things. They're going to be living lives that are more holistic, that honor family, that honor the environment. That's what Adventist schooling is outside of North America. In North America, if non-Adventists increase in the school, parents stop sending their kids to the school because they're afraid, listen to this, they're afraid that those people are going to be a bad influence on their kids, right? Instead of saying, you know what, here's an opportunity for my kid to be a positive influence in that person's life. Isn't that crazy? So when I say about Adventism in North America, I'm talking about a very, and what's crazy is this, and I describe this as a fortress mentality, right? We built these walls, we're trying to keep the world out because we feel attacked, which is really ironic considering that we are in the land of religious freedom. We're concerned about being attacked. There's people out there who they really get attacked. Like there's Christians dying right now because they're Christians. Right? And here we are, and we're setting up these fortresses. We're setting up these barriers and saying, you know what? Let's keep the world out. Let's go isolate ourselves. And to me, there's nothing exceptional about that. Nothing exceptional about that. There's no opportunity to get close to people and get them close to God if we're keeping everyone out. Getting close to God and allowing Him to reside in us, to be clear about who He is, and sticking to that plan, being faithful to that plan, means that anyone who gets close to us is going to have an exceptional relationship with us. They're going to have a relationship that's different than any other relationships that they have with people who don't have that close connection with God. Do you believe that? Do you recognize that? That if you follow him and you're close to him, the people that you allow to get close to you are going to be better. You're going to raise the bar in their life, and you're going to redefine what normal is. Don't be afraid to be exceptional. Don't be afraid to be distinct. Don't shy away from it. Embrace God's calling in your life. Embrace his proximity in your life, and allow yourself to raise the bar in all the other relationships that you have. Redefine normal. Be close to him. Be close to others. And you will have exceptional health in your relationships. The gospel is a living thing. And the gospel is not really professed. It's not really proclaimed. The gospel, the good news, is lived out in the relationships that you have. Amen. You should live in relationships that are good news. Get close to him. Get close to each other. And have exceptional relationships that redefine what normal is. Practically, what does that mean? And I'm just going to name 2 or 3 because you have to get a little controversial for the gospel. The reason I expect so much out of my church and out of my faith community when it comes to race relations is because I expect us to be exceptional. I don't expect us to be just like everyone else, living with the discomfort, living with ignoring history, living with ignoring the fact that there's stuff inside of us that gives us angst when we see someone who's different than us and has a different experience than us. Everyone else slips it under the rug. I expect that if you get close to God and you have a desire to get close to others, I expect it to be different than everyone else. I expect that when we talk to outcasts in society, and I'm thinking now specifically a very outcast group in society who's now being more accepted by society than is being accepted by the church, is LGBTQ people. I expect that the best relationships for people in those groups should be coming out of the church, not out of the world. Why? Because God loves you. And if he loves you, why can't he love everybody else? If he accepts you, why wouldn't he accept everyone else? And that the church isn't known for being a healing presence in people's life, an embracing presence in people's lives, is kind of sad to me because that's normal. And everything that I know about God is exceptional. And I want us to be known for being exceptional in the love and grace that we show to one another, that we extend to one another. Have you considered, you know what? God is calling me to love all. How am I doing that well? Or how am I not doing that well? And really wrestle. You know what, Lord? I want to love exceptionally. I want to accept exceptionally. I want to know how it is that you want me to treat others, regardless of their choices. The love of my life, the female love of my life, is this beautiful 8-year-old girl. Okay? She's the most precious thing in the world. When she was 2.5 years old, I went to the refrigerator. She was all the way down the hall in the living room. I went to the refrigerator. I opened the door. I pulled out my Dr. Pepper. I snapped it, and you know the snap that I make. Psh. This girl ran down. Daddy! And she's running down, her 2 years old, running all the way down to the kitchen, and can I have some? And I'm like, yeah, baby, you could have all of it if you want, but not really because it has caffeine and I don't need you to stay up. So I just gave her, and I love this girl. That moment was just so precious to me. Second story, last year, I went to go preach at Great Lakes Adventist Academy. And I can't remember if it was junior prez or senior prez, and I was telling a story about David and Goliath. And every time that they're with me and I speak, Sophia always asks me, Dad, which story are you telling today? Because she gets to hear them like several times, So which story are you telling today? And I'm like, and so I told her, I'm talking about David and Goliath. She's like, oh, can I tell it with you? Can I tell it with you? Yeah, baby, you can come up, you can tell it with me. So we rehearse, okay? And so the way that the sermon started was we were singing Only a Boy Named David, Only a Boy Named David, Only a Little Sling, right? So I said, Sophia, we're going to sing this song, and we're going to invite the congregation to sing with us. And while we're singing that song, you and I are going to act out. You're going to be David, I'm going to be Goliath. So we practiced it, and she's swinging, and, I'm standing tall like Goliath, and it gets to the part where, he throws, how does it go? And round and round and round and round and round and round it went, and one little stone went up in the air. I can't whistle. And it hits me, and then I fall to my knees, and then I collapse, and that's the end, right? So we get up, we've rehearsed this, we practiced this, and we're going through it, everybody's singing, she's up here, and she's pretending to be David, and homegirl, check this out. So I fall, she runs over, throws me down, right, like this, and then she chops my head off in front of everybody, and the whole congregation is just rolling, like, oh, she knows the real Bible story, not just Uncle Arthur's version. She knows the head came off, and in my head, I'm like, I don't remember practicing this part ever. That girl someday is going to do some things that are going to make me sad. I know that. She's a human being. She's bound at some point in time to make some poor decisions. Okay? That's just the reality. And it'll make me sad. But do you think I will ever love her any less than I did in those moments? Never. Never. I will love her without condition. I will always love her. It doesn't matter what choices she makes. I will always love her. She may break my heart. She may cause me to stay up all night praying for her that she would make healthy choices, that she would make good choices, that she would honor God. But do you think I will ever stop loving her? No. She won my heart the minute that I laid my eyes on her. She won me in that moment. And I will always, always love her with all my heart. There isn't anything I wouldn't do to win her to the kingdom. There isn't anything I wouldn't do to make her happy in all the right ways. Because I love her. She's my child. Now, if me being a human being, who's makes mistakes, who's messed up, who has the sin gene inside of me, love my daughter that much, don't you think he who is the author of love knows how to love much better than me? And that love is exceptional. This world wants to tell us how to love well, but it can't. It doesn't know how. My God, he knows how. He's a good, good Father. He's a good, good Father. And I want to love like He loves. I want to get close to people like He gets close to me. There isn't anything that I could ever do that will make Him stop loving me. And in the same way that He loves me abundantly and lavishes that on me, I need to learn to love others well. I need to have that kind of exceptional love. I need to live in proximity to others in a way that redefines normal by the Father's love. Pray with me. Holy Father, if it's unclear still who you are in some people's lives in here, if it's unclear still what your character is and what your intention is, Father, I ask that in a very powerful way, you come close to those individuals who are still unclear. I ask that for those of us who think we have clarity about who you are, that you would give us new and fresh insights, deeper look into who you really are. And I ask, Father, that as we experience that clarity with you and we draw closer to you, that that character be put in our heart. And that we understand and we accept that that is going to look different than the rest of this world. Father, I ask that right now, for those of us who are here and have decided to follow you, that we would make a decision to love exceptionally, to draw close to people in ways that they didn't even know were possible because they didn't know you yet. But through the testimony of our relationship with them, through the good news of our relationship with them, that they would come into a vision of you that they had never seen before. May our proclamation not just be words. May our profession not just be cue cards that we follow, but Lord, may our good news be lived out in our relationships with one another. When we say, I love you to someone, help us to know what we're committing to and what we're really saying. When we say that we're friends, help us to know what it really means to be friends, to be honorable and to be generous and to be giving to one another. When we say that we're committed, help us to know what it means to forgive someone the same way that you've forgiven us. When we say that we care, help us to know what it means to be a healing presence in someone's life that brings good to them rather than harm. Because if we're close to you, Father, that's how we want to be close to others. Help us, Lord, to have a desire in our hearts to live exceptionally and to love the way you love. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.